I, 26 male, broke up with my girlfriend of 4 years Mary, 27F, about a month ago, because she asked me to open our relationship. It is /was/ and always will be a major line in the sand for me, something that I have opened up to her about in the past. We've had a great relationship, and the only thing that stands out, and the only reason it stands out now is because of this situation, is she progressively started making a lot more sexual jokes about some of our shared friends over the last few months. Some involved her being with them and others were three-way jokes, etc. I won't lie, I played along a little, but I consistently made some joking response along the lines of "you're more than enough for me" and "or I don't like sharing." Never took any of it seriously, because, why would I? Until she asked and I found out / realized that she was probably trying to gauge my response and see how open I was. Mary asked when we were getting ready for bed about a month ago, kinda bluntly. I was scrolling on my phone and she was getting changed and goes, "This might sound super corny, but it was like I had an out-of-body experience and all of the above hit me at once." All the jokes and comments so far made sense in a "she's trying to butter me up to the idea" kind of way, and went really numb for a second. To her credit, she must have seen how freaked out I was and asked if I was okay. I pretended I didn't hear her and asked her to repeat herself, and she was really hesitant too, kept saying she didn't say anything, and only repeated it when I insisted. Then, I went to voice notes, set it to record and put my phone down to talk to her. I don't remember much of it, just that I tried to stay calm and keep her talking, but the note is just over an hour and a half long and it feels like I'm listening into a conversation that happened between two strangers. She trickled truth all the way through it and ultimately stuck to the idea that she hadn't been cheating. She didn't have any one person in mind, but had been fantasizing about mutual friends and people at work and seemed to get the idea that they'd be open to something if she asked. A lot of it is her being defensive and me trying to needle information out of her without it escalating into an argument. A lot of me placating her and trying to make her feel comfortable enough to keep talking. The apartment is mine and I suggested we take a break a few nights later, so she went to stay with a friend for the weekend. By the next Monday I'd spoken to some of my friends and my sisters, separately, and come to the conclusion that we were done and suggested she started looking for somewhere else to stay. She was upset but didn't really argue and had the vast majority of her stuff out, and at her parents' house, by the end of the week. So, coming to 2 days ago, her mum reached out over WhatsApp to say she was disappointed in how I'd handled everything. The message wasn't really framed in a way that she was reprimanding me, more that she wished we could have worked it out. She then added me to a group chat with her husband, ex's stepdad, and they both kinda tag-teamed me saying that we could work it out, I was making a mistake and that I shouldn't overthink things. I eventually got it out of them that my ex had fed them a very vague story that we had broken up because she'd wanted to take the next step in our relationship and that I'd freaked out, we'd argued and she'd been effectively kicked out. Her stepdad was leaning on the fact that he thought I was more mature than this, and her mom just kept repeating how disappointing this whole situation was. So, I was pissed. In the heat of the moment, I told them I had the recording of our conversation that I could send that would explain what she actually meant about taking the next step. I initially tried to email it to them, but it was being a ball ache, so I eventually shared it via Drive. In the meantime, I took a few screenshots of my ex and I's messages, ones where she had made jokes and comments about sex with our friends and a lady from her office, and sent them along to that shared chat group. I haven't heard back since. Again, it's been 2 days, and I don't feel as vindicated anymore. A good few of my ex's comments were about other women, and I'm freaking out because I don't know how, if at all, open she's been about her sexuality with them. I also think I shouldn't have engaged at all, and I shouldn't have felt the need to prove my innocence to either of them. Ida? I've checked in with friends, and over social media, and it doesn't look like there's been any fallout. Also, my ex blocked me a week ago, before I spoke to her parents, so I can't really contact her without going in person. And, at this point, is it too late to even give her a heads up or check in? Edit, TW for SA to address a few points I have seen in multiple comments. We don't live in the US and we have no laws on recording private conversations on the books. I am not proud of doing it, but it wasn't illegal. Mary and I had several mature, calm conversations about what we both wanted out of this relationship. Mary wasn't sure if she wanted to stay and kind of admitted to self-sabotaging by asking about opening the relationship. Mary and I have been friends since we were 11. Her mum was my coach when I swam competitively, and our friend group and families are very close and intermingled, so she was wary about what would happen if we went on a break or fully broke up. I was not trying to punish her for being open to polyamory. Mary and I are both bi, and when I was in my last year of high school I was involved in an inappropriate relationship with a teaching assistant. He was arrested and registered as a sex offender, but during the time we were involved, he convinced me to be with other people, as well. He effectively pimped me out for a year and physically assaulted me when I eventually said no and tried to cut him off. Mary knew all of the above, as she helped me through it at the time, and I was very clear that I can't do something like that again. I know that what I went through wasn't an actual open relationship, but it was very much framed as one, and that has stuck with me. I would never put down other people for doing it, but I made this all very clear to Mary and the other serious relationship I was in before her. I've carried a lot of issues from then into future relationships, and I am in therapy and have worked with Mary to not punish her for what other people have done to me, but for as great and supportive Mary was, she did have an issue with trying to gaslight me. She would say one thing and then, typically during an argument, would vehemently argue otherwise and genuinely make me question myself. It took her coming to therapy with me, and me sometimes showing her texts, for her to realize this was a problem and we had been working on it together. Me recording her was still not right, but it wasn't an attempt to gather something incriminating, it was just a response. It was a poor response that I shouldn't have done, but it wasn't malicious nor did I intend to send it to anyone at the time. Also, since making this post and reading your replies, I have gone back to her parents to apologize. I did initially try and tell them that she wasn't being honest and that I wanted to keep things private, but they kept going on about me being immature and that this was disappointing. I'll be honest, I got a bit angry again rereading some of their messages, but it really didn't warrant me outing Mary the way I did. I appreciate everyone's judgment. She has gaslit me in the past, outright lied about what she said or what I said, and worked really hard to convince me that I was misremembering things. This has been more recent, the last year, and she came to therapy with me to discuss it and we were working past it. If I'm being honest, I recorded that conversation because I knew she'd lie about it. But, I assumed she would lie to me about what she said, not other people. I wasn't trapping her to expose her to the world later, I wanted it so I could go hack and prove I wasn't going crazy when we inevitably argued about it. But, in the end, we didn't argue. We kept things civil and broke things off maturely. I mentioned none of it to anyone, just said we wanted different things and weren't compatible anymore, and, as her parents were berating me, I just felt bitter. I felt like I'd done everything right and this is my reward for it. You're right, I took it way too far and I crossed the line in dumping all of that in her parents' lap. But what I will say, I did leave her one support system alone up until the point she wound them up and sent them after me, intentionally or not. I am not proud of freaking out and exposing her to her parents. I'm genuinely not. But I didn't go in with the intention of exposing her to anyone and she decided to respond to that by lying about me kicking her out for not wanting to marry her. Update 1. I came to this sub because my mind was all over the place yesterday and you all helped me clear it up a little, even the people who clearly weren't trying to be helpful. As a result, on reflection, I'm not sorry for recording her. I understand that people don't like the idea of being recorded by an intimate partner, especially when having an intimate conversation, and you, naturally, support Mary on that front out of solidarity, but all I can say is, you do not know what Mary is like or what our relationship was like either. That's one incident of many. She once told me I was flirting for holding the door open for a group because there were girls you were clearly trying to impress with them, and went on such a long tirade about my male chivalry was just a selfish way to gain attention from women beyond her. I am not apologizing anymore for recording her. I wouldn't have had such a visceral need to defend myself if I wasn't with someone who kept hurting me. I made that recording because I knew she would lie, and she did. But I thought she would lie to me, not to other people, and I wanted it strictly so I had her words, they're on my phone, should she start claiming she said anything else. At the end of the day though, we didn't end up having any of that and we parted maturely. I understand that a lot of you won't believe that was my intention, and I'll just have to live with that. Beyond all that, I am still sorry for sending it to her parents as a way to get back at her. Her parents have always been very pro-LGBTQ+, so although it wasn't right to out her, I was massively overthinking them harming her or kicking her out. At most, exposing her interest in polyamory would have embarrassed her, but nothing I shared would have put her in any danger. That being said, I saw red during that exchange and saw this as a way to finally show people I wasn't misremembering things. It was spiteful and vindictive, and I can see so many different ways I could have dealt with the situation more calmly, but I was angry and I didn't do any of them. And for that I am still sorry. Like I said in the edit to my previous post, I apologized to her parents. I apologized for getting angry, cussing them out, and for sharing private information about their daughter to them. I fully acknowledged that I was being spiteful and that it was a harsh escalation of a response. Anne and Paul, what I'll call them for this post, accepted it at face value, but asked if I could come over for lunch this afternoon so we could have an actual conversation. It was nice, but really awkward too. Mary wasn't there. I apologized again and Paul and Anne said they were sorry for interfering and not giving me a chance to tell my side. We both agreed we'd acted inappropriately and that, going forward, we wouldn't involve ourselves in this topic. Left things on relatively better terms, but I'm not going to talk to them for a while. Above everything, they are Mary's parents and they will always be in her corner, as parents should be, so keeping my distance is in everyone's best interests. As for Mary, she unblocked me late last night and let loose a tirade of angry messages. They mostly, of course, consisted of how creepy and disgusting I was for recording her. Again, I recorded her because I knew she'd lie and all she did was prove my point, to which, despite still cussing me out, she had no real response for. I got from her, Anne and Paul, that things are understandably awkward, after what I'd shared, but she's still staying with them, for the time being. They've not discussed it with her, beyond letting her know they'd heard the recording and now knew she'd lied, but there has been no indication of negative consequences. And that's it. I'm reeling from 4 years of a relationship being over, of my girlfriend and best friend using my own trauma as a way to make me break up with her and then pretending everything was okay just to lie about me behind my back. Now on to second story. Uninvited my adopted brothers who openly denied our family bond, causing my parents to threaten boycotting my wedding. I'm a 32-year-old man, and I'm getting married to my longtime girlfriend soon. What should be one of the happiest moments of my life has turned into a heartbreaking ordeal because of a deepening rift in my family. To give you some background, I'm my parents' biological son, and when I was 12, they adopted two boys who were biological siblings, Jack, who was 8, and Liam, who was 5. From the very beginning, it was clear that things were going to be tough. Jack came with severe behavioral issues due to some intense trauma. I'll spare the details, but it was significant. I tried my hardest to be understanding, but living with him was nothing short of exhausting. His outbursts were constant, and I often felt like I was walking on eggshells, terrified of setting him off. As we grew older, I continued to try to be there for Jack, despite everything. A few years ago, Jack fell into a devastating drug addiction. I stood by him through his darkest moments, supporting him through rehab, and doing everything I could to help him get back on his feet. It was draining and heartbreaking, but I did it because I loved him and believed that, despite our challenges, we were still brothers. Liam, on the other hand, was always easier to get along with, and I formed a closer bond with him. But even so, I always felt like an outsider. Jack and Liam's bond as biological siblings was undeniable, and I never quite felt like I was truly a part of it. It was like I was always on the edge, looking in, trying to be included but never fully accepted. The situation came to a head recently at a Sunday dinner at my parents' house. My son was working on his summer homework, which involved creating a family tree. He innocently asked Jack if he wanted to be included, and Jack just flat out said no. He didn't want to be part of it because, in his exact words, "We're not real brothers." He said it so casually, like it was the most obvious thing in the world, with no regard for how much it would cut me to the core. I was utterly stunned, but what shattered me even more was that Liam, who I've always felt closer to, just sat there in silence. He didn't say a word. He didn't defend me or even acknowledge how hurtful Jack's words were. He just let it happen. I've tried so hard to be supportive of both of them, especially Jack, despite the endless challenges. So, for Jack to say that, and for Liam to do nothing, felt like a gut punch. It was as if they were both telling me, in no uncertain terms, that I was never truly part of their family. In my pain and frustration, I decided to uninvite both Jack and Liam for my wedding. My fiancée has been nothing but supportive of my decision, but my parents are furious. They've made it clear that if Jack and Liam aren't invited, they won't attend either. It feels like history is repeating itself, with my parents once again prioritizing Jack over me, no matter how much it hurts me. I'm absolutely heartbroken that my parents would choose to miss my wedding rather than support me in this. I know Jack has been through a lot, but I've done everything I can to be there for him and for Liam, despite all the heartache. And now, I feel like I'm the one being punished for finally standing up for myself and setting some boundaries. Ida for uninviting my brothers after they said they don't see me as family, even if it means my parents won't come to my wedding? Update 1. First off, thank you to everyone who took the time to comment. I've read through all your advice, and it's been a lifeline. But buckle up, because things have taken a wild turn. After hearing from so many of you, I decided I needed to talk to Liam. We met up at a pub, and I just laid it all out there, how hurt I was when he didn't say anything after Jack made that awful comment about not being real brothers. I was half expecting him to defend himself, but what I got was something entirely different. Liam confessed that he's been living in fear of Jack for years. He told me he kept quiet that night because he was terrified of setting Jack off, not because he agreed with him. Then he dropped a bombshell. Despite being Jack's biological brother, he's felt just as much of an outsider in our family as I have. The constant pressure from our parents to cater to Jack's every whim has worn him down, too. Liam assured me that he's always seen me as his brother and that he regrets not standing up for me sooner. Hearing that was a huge relief. He's completely on my side now, and we agreed that if Jack can't respect me as a brother, he has no place at my wedding, or in our lives. But just when I thought things couldn't get more intense, my parents decided to make everything worse. I sat them down and explained why I uninvited Jack, hoping they'd understand. Instead, they threw down an ultimatum. If Jack isn't invited, they're not coming to my wedding. No room for discussion, no empathy, just flat-out refusal. I was gutted. After all these years of putting Jack's needs above mine, this is how they repay me? I couldn't hold back anymore. I let out all the anger and frustration I've been bottling up for years. I told them how I've always been the one sacrificing, how they've always prioritized Jack, and that I was done being treated like I don't matter. I made it clear that if they choose not to come to my wedding, they're making their choice, and I'll make mine. With that, I walked out, leaving them to stew in their own decisions. Out of nowhere, Jack started bombarding me with the nastiest, most hurtful texts I've ever received. He accused me of turning Liam against him, of ripping the family apart, and had the audacity to call me selfish for abandoning him. He ranted about how he never felt like he belonged in the family and how it's all my fault for pushing him away. His words hit hard, but they also opened my eyes. Jack has spent his whole life blaming everyone else for his problems, and I've been his favorite scapegoat. This time, though, I'm not letting him guilt trip me. I didn't even respond, I just blocked his number. If he can't see what he's done wrong, then there's nothing more to say. Liam was livid when I told him about Jack's messages. He's more determined than ever to support me, and we've decided to go low contact with our parents until after the wedding. Liam's been a rock through all this, helping me with the wedding plans and making sure I'm not dealing with this mess alone. So, the wedding is still happening, but with a much smaller guest list. My parents haven't reached out since our argument, and at this point, I don't care if they show up or no. This day is about me and my fiancée, and I'm not letting anyone, not even my own family, ruin it. Update 2. A lot has changed, and I'm grateful to say that things are moving in a much better direction. 2 days after the text argument with Jack, he reached out to me. I wasn't sure what to expect when he asked if we could meet up, and I was reluctant, but I agreed. When we sat down, the first thing he did was apologize. He told me how sorry he was for what he said to my son and admitted that he didn't know why he said it. Jack seemed genuinely remorseful, and I could tell that he really meant it. This wasn't just another apology to smooth things over, this was different, and it felt sincere. After apologizing, Jack took a deep breath and confessed something that I probably should have seen coming. He told me that he had relapsed before the argument even happened. Hearing that hit me hard. It explained so much about his behavior in the weeks leading up to that moment, the irritability, the distance, the way he was withdrawing from everyone. I realized that I had missed all the signs. I'm not proud to admit it, but I was so caught up in my frustrations with Jack's behaviors and my wedding that I didn't stop to think that something deeper might be going on. Jack's confession wasn't just about the relapse, it was about taking responsibility in a way he's never done before. He went on to tell me that after realizing the damage he'd caused, he had made the decision to check himself into treatment. This might sound like a typical step, but for Jack, it was monumental. In the past, Jack's only gone into treatment because he was either sectioned by social services and forced into it, or because my parents threatened to kick him out if he didn't get help. But this time, he made the decision on his own. That was something he'd never done before, and it showed me that he was serious about wanting to change. He told me that he is doing this because the prospects of losing me, his brother, was too much and he couldn't handle it. He wants to take this seriously because he wants to show me he can do it. He told me he sees me as his family, and he feels so guilty for making me feel like I wasn't his family. Jack has also agreed to start taking medication to help calm his nerves, something he would never do before. It's now been about 5-6 days since Jack checked himself in for treatment, and I've been visiting him regularly. At first, I went alone because I wasn't sure how my son would feel about seeing Jack so soon after everything that happened. But after a few visits, I felt it was important for my son to see that Jack was making an effort to make things right. So, I brought him along, and Jack took the opportunity to apologize to him directly. It was a really emotional moment for me as a parent. My son is still young and doesn't fully understand everything that's been going on, but he could see that Jack was sorry, and it seemed to make a difference to him. They even spent some time together, just talking and playing, and it felt like a big step forward for all of us. Throughout all of this, my brother Liam has been incredibly supportive. We've talked a lot about Jack, and it's clear that Liam wants to see him succeed just as much as I do. We both know how much Jack's trauma has affected him, and while it doesn't excuse his behavior, it does help us understand why he's struggled so much. Having Liam by my side through all of this has made me feel a lot less alone. Reflecting on everything, I've come to realize that I need to take responsibility for my part in how things escalated. In the weeks leading up to the argument, Jack had been doing things that really got under my skin. Instead of addressing it calmly, I let my frustration build until I finally snapped. Looking back, I can see that his behaviors were likely tied to his relapse, and I should have seen that sooner. I feel guilty for not recognizing the signs and for reacting the way I did, but I'm trying to focus on what I can do to support Jack now that he's taking his recovery seriously. When I wrote my first 2 posts, I was in a place of deep frustration with Jack, and though nothing I said was incorrect or a lie, I definitely painted a picture of Jack's most negative moments without everything else. I want to remind everyone about Jack's trauma. Jack was a victim of severe abuse by his biological family, including extensive CSA, Liam also, but Jack's was a lot more intense. Jack jokes now that he was their biological father's favorite in all the wrong ways. Jack got into drugs at a pretty young age, but has been clean, or so I thought, for a while. I mentioned this before, but Jack has told me in the past that even now, almost 20 years after he was adopted by our parents, there is not a day where he doesn't think / have nightmares about his abuse. He says the only moments of peace he gets is when he's high. Jack's trauma runs deep, and it's something that continues to affect him every day. I'm not making excuses for his actions, but I do think it's important to remember that he's dealing with a lot of pain. Despite everything, I still believe in Jack. I believe that he has the strength to overcome his past, and with Liam and me by his side, I'm hopeful that he can get through this. I also want to take a moment to thank everyone who offered advice and support on my last post. Your words helped me see things from a different perspective and gave me the push I needed to approach this situation with more compassion. There's still a long road ahead, but I'm optimistic that we're on the right path now. For now, things are looking up. Jack is taking his treatment seriously, and our family is slowly healing. We're taking things one day at a time, and I'm committed to supporting Jack as long as he's committed to helping himself.